Good morning. A very good morning to each and every one of you. Good morning, guys. We're happy that you're here. We're happy that you've chosen to join us. Wherever you're joining us from, Carletta and all the other folks who are tuning from around the world this morning, we are happy that you are here. Kyle Bino is already here. Yolanda Thomas is here too. Jason Adams is here. Debbie Collins, Tommy Gibbs here as well. Guys, we trust that all is good at your side. And thank you for joining us. You know, there's so much happening on Facebook. And we know for those of you, especially who are in the diaspora, there is so much else that can have your attention. But you guys choose to spend this time here with us. And we don't take it lightly. That's what we want you all to know. We don't take it lightly at all. We're just happy that you folks have chosen us as your place for some of the news and entertainment that you get. We're privileged and we are humbled. Welcome to each and every one of you this morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we know that you guys are going to share the live. You guys are going to smash that emoji button. We know that you guys are going to partner with us as well because, you know, especially the last bit, this is how we do program after program, day after day, week after week. There's no other way which we do it because of your love, because of your generosity, folks, that we're able to keep going. We're able to keep moving forward. And we want to thank you guys for doing it so consistently. You know, I want to say special thanks to the clerks here in the Turks and Caicos Islands who've been so generous to us over the last 24 hours. Thank you so much to the clerks at this end, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And looking forward to touching base with you guys a little later on. We're simply privileged. We can't see it any other way. We're simply privileged to have you guys on with us each and every day. Veronica, Prima Rollins, good to have you there. And Victoria Singh, Camille Cox, joining us out of Region 6. Camille says, Ghana's becoming so sad. Yeah. Story of our lives in the 592. Right? Jolie Alcock, Beverly Booker, we see you guys there and we're privileged that you guys are joining us. Laverne Harricharan, Kelman Prasad, good to see you, Laverne. How are you doing? The technicians who are on duty, guys, do let us know if you're hearing us clearly. We want to be heard clearly. We want to be heard and we want to be heard clearly. Good to have you, Camille and Shauna. Jay, is it Jay? Folks, y'all know the old eyes. Joy Barry, you see that? Good thing I watched it properly. Joy Barry, good to see you there, Joy. And is it Gorley? Praga, where these names come from? Yolanda, thank you for your contribution. Thank you so much. Yolanda has just made a contribution to our broadcast. You know, once we're live on the tube, once we're live there, the tube, it's tube with a C, tube, as we say it colloquially. Those of you who are live on the tube, good to have you guys here. And Yolanda has made a contribution via the tube, folks. You know, once we live in the comment section, there's a dollar sign there, and you smash on that. It tells you to purchase a sticker or something like that, super sticker, and part of that proceeds comes to us. Norbert, good to have you, Norbert. Vanessa De Silva's here as well, and all the other folks, right? All the other folks. Waveney Doris, good to see you there as well. And, you know, Camille has raised an important issue we're going to be talking about in our program this morning, too. Camille has raised an important issue there. Margaret Nelson is here with us as well. And we have Yvette Juna has joined us too. Guys, we're privileged. Share the live, folks. Smash that emoji button for us. Fennel Innes, we see you there as well. And Ethelene Peters, we see you there. Ethelene and Beryl Crawford. Guys, we're happy. We're privileged that you folks have joined us today. How are you guys doing, man? Please and thank you. Do let us know. I see Julia Lewis is here with us. Julia, how are you today? What's for breakfast at your end? What's for breakfast in the 592? Feel like so. I got some brought forward from yesterday. And I stayed in last evening every night in the Turks and Caicos Islands. There's something happening. They got us busy here every night. So there was a fish fry on last night. I stayed in. Alcoholic. So the guys brought over some fish and so on. That's it brought forward. I go focus on this morning. That's it brought forward, you know. Been off of my diet, you know. Had some Coke for breakfast. Food of champions. Thanks, Carlotta. Thank you. I needed that. Thank you. Beryl Crawford is here with us, and Terrence Lewis is here too. We got Out Front Parts is here too as well, and Marcia Wiles, Waveney Doris. Good to have you, Waveney. All the other beautiful, wonderful folks who are joining us this morning, joining us today. Happy and delighted that you folks could be with us. I see Camille Cox is still with us here. Thanks, Camille. Thanks, Camille. I know how your work got you busy. Camille is always in touch with the people there in 6. Always in touch. You know, I want to say a special shout out to all our counselors across the country. You know, if you're a Jagabatical counselor, good morning to you too, without exception. If you're a Jagabatical counselor, good morning to you too. You know, good morning to our councillors. Good morning to our MPs. You know, if you're a Trench Crappo MP, good morning to you too. Good morning to you. Folks, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Arf and Ollie, I'm out the jurisdiction. You don't allow me, yeah? In a lot of accents of recent folks. Turks and Cocos Islands, a lot of Caucasian people. You know, I think in by percentage-wise, might outnumber, you know, people who look like us. The Turks and the Caucasus Islands folks. I step out the border and that's it. But Arfan Ali, he has a good opportunity to be a good installed president. He has an opportunity to be a good installed president. But I think he latched on too much to the coattail of Mr. Jagdeo. You know, Mr. Jagdeo of Sioux fame. Sioux? Who Sioux? Same Sioux, bastard. Same Sioux. He has an opportunity, a golden opportunity. Simone Graves, Out Front Parts, he got the opportunity to be a good installed president. But he ain't taking it. You know, he can look back in the old age, like some of us do. And say, if I had another chance, you think that's how life is? Like, you know, strike the same way twice. If I had another chance, ask Donald Ramatar, ask Ramatar. Like, you know, strike the same way twice. Beryl Felix, ask Ramatar. If I had another chance, you know, Ramatar think he would have been there long. When he was coming in, he didn't see himself proroguing Parliament the same way they didn't see themselves having to let Darmlal go. He didn't see himself going back in 15 with a minority government. Not 2015, what was it? 2010, 2011? With a minority government. And definitely, they didn't see themselves losing power in 2015. And Mr. Jagdeo ought to be reminded of that. Because they believe that they have divine right to kings. But in 2015, the Lord shut the door. I like when Father shut the door, no man can open it. And when he opened it, no man can shut it. So this operating as though they're under the divine right to kings, you better watch yourself. You better ask Donald. You better remember 2015. Right? If you're forgetting, you better ask somebody. So everyone has an opportunity to be a good installed president. Will he take it? That is the question. So good morning to all the members of Parliament. Right. All the members of Parliament. Trench Crappo members of Parliament or otherwise. To all our councillors and in the NDCs, in the municipalities, all of them in the regional democratic councils, right? Jagabat or otherwise. Good morning to all of you, without exception. Without exception. So there's where we started this morning. And we're circling back to your boy. Soon and very soon, we're going to circle back. Folks, a very good morning to each and every one of you. And welcome, welcome, friends, family, favorites. Welcome to FYI. For your information, we've got a couple of things to touch on this morning. For your information, wherever you're joining us from, we're privileged. Donna Joseph, Mark Doris is here. Sion Salvatore, good to have you. Out Front Parts is here as well. Deborah Pearson, guys, we're happy, we're delighted. You here, we here. We got a little food. For all I know of life, That is what life is. You have some good friends, good folks, and people who are in your corner. Wind beneath your wings, wind in your sail. Right? Well, see in this life. What else you need? Shalanda, good to have you. Shalanda Beresford, Sean of Fortune, all the S's out with us this morning. We're delighted, folks. We are delighted to have all of you here. Good to see you, folks. Welcome to our broadcast. FYI, I've got a couple of things we're working on this morning in the morning papers. Why not let us start here? Because we've got a couple of things happening in the morning papers. We wish to draw to your attention. Might we? We beg your indulgence for another few minutes to draw a couple of things to your attention. Roderick Henry, we see you there, Roderick. We're happy to have you here. Marla Pandey, joining us out of Carmichael Street. Thanks for joining us, Marla. Good to have you there. Edward Rooms, Leon Logan, good to have you as well. And I see we got Claire Capel. Good to have you with us, Claire. Why not let us touch on some of the things we're covering in the morning papers? Now, what's this toilet business about? Shucks. What is this toilet business about? I can't leave you all alone for a couple of minutes. It's trouble and it's problems. What is this toilet affair about? What causing it? What causing it? Catch yourselves, man. Please. Please. Now, listen to me. Listen to me. Nobody has the right to expose themselves publicly for others to see, deliberately. Right? And that's not the case here. It is not. Right? It is not. You know, there are some people who are sick in the mind. They will go deliberately. How this accrued. They will go deliberately and expose themselves. This is not the case. But what I wish to draw to your attention is how quick the DPP has recommended charges. That is what I wish to draw to your attention. How quick. And that's in the morning papers today. How quick the DPP is ready to institute charges. But folks, this is nothing new. We've seen this movie before. We've seen it before, Debbie Collins. Good to see you, Debs. Mark Doris, we've seen it before. Waveney. Doris. The whole Doris clan watching us. The whole Doris clan. John and Joseph. We've seen this movie before. The quick when it comes to opposition members. I put a pen in my hand so I look intelligent. Put two. We quick. You see? When we're dealing with these issues of opposition members, to come to charges. Roderick, you understand that? John and Joseph, out front parts. See, whatever have an overactive bladder, out front parts. But I want to get into the specifics. I want to underscore the issue of how quick the DPP, we can spend whole day there by Shalimar Ali-Haq. We could spend some time talking about Shalimar. You know, over this issue with Nigel Darmlal and the 16-year-old. I heard people saying Shalimar should take off the Kimar. I'm advised that Shalimar means truth. But Shalimar ain't getting to truth. It's politics. It's the only truth Shalimar knows. And so I saw commentators saying that Shalimar Ali-Haq should take it off the Kimar. take it off. Right? And I know as time progresses, all you tend to forget. But lest we forget, might I remind you, Vesta, Donna, Leroy, Marla, Gwyneth, Mark, might I remind you of some of the jagabatical, trench crapotical behavior of this installed regime. Huh? Because the motto of them is to protect your own, and we saw it with what transpired with the Nigel Jamlal issue. We saw it with the McCoy issue in the National Assembly. We saw it. It's protect your own at all costs. We saw it with O.C. Rogers, who beat up that young woman in that back supermarket. Protect your own. Lest we forget, I wish to remind you who shared the live this morning. Yeah. Who gonna share the live? Who gonna smash that emoji button for us? We look in the tin. It's a Friday morning. We big, we know. And even if we all, we cold. It's a Friday morning, we fired up and we're ready to go. I wanna remind you, lest we forget Marcus Anderson, Valderine Hackett. Lest we forget. Lest we forget. Might I remind you of this jagabatical behavior of this install regime, trench crapotical behavior. You'll remember when this is the same Shalimar who dropped discontinued charges against Nandilal for the law books. You all remember that? There were issues to be tried there. Soon as the regime changed, charges dropped. No explanations given. You all remember that? Who shared their live this morning? Who can smash that emoji button? Hundreds of you watching us. So might I draw that to your attention? But David Patterson gets charged $200,000 bail. My God. Huh? Then there was the Ashley Singh and Winston Brassington land cases where land purportedly, allegedly sold below market value. Is it me or did the High Court, Derek Wills, tell us that there were substantive matters to be tried and the cases can go forward? Is it me, Valderine? Is it me, Marcus? Waveney? Tommy? Peril? Or is it that Shalimar Ali has a certain disposition to some of these issues? There's no one Guyana judicially. No, it is not. Yeah. We see two Guyanas in the application of how these things are dealt with. So don't come around, we funny. The court said, and I know a lot of PP supporters tune in and watch our broadcast because they ain't getting valid and credible information through the hens at HenCN. Huh? They're not getting valid and credible information through the DPI and Chronicle. Oh my God. The Chronicle has seen better days. The Chronicle. They ain't getting credible and valid information by the room that supposedly got the news. They don't get it there. And so you've come to us. Alas, alas, you have come to us. We're happy to have you all here. But lest you forget, might I remind you, when these charges were dropped, these charges were withdrawn. The judge said there were matters to be tried with Ashley Singh, with Winston Brassington, but those charges were dropped. So who you name Colin? Your name Colin. And you all forget when there were private criminal charges brought against Claudette Singh, who was swing. Do you remember that? Private criminal charges were brought. But Shalimar never tell me why she dropped them. Shalimar didn't tell me why those charges, why those private criminal charges were dropped. Right? And weeks we waited for a charge we brought against Niger Damlal. We're still waiting. But quick. When it comes to issues of the opposition, Shalimar Ali Haq nimble on her feet. Like a ballerina for a woman of her age and stage in life, nimble on her feet. Quick. You know? What's the fastest snake you got? Huh? I know you guys are bright and quick. I know if you're quick like Shalimar, but I know you're quick. One of the fastest snakes they got. I know it's not no cobra. They got snakes faster than the cobra. She's fast and nimble like that when it comes to deal with opposition issues. But when Damlal was to be charged, well, we're still waiting. We're still waiting and we're still holding. Because you know what? It's protect your own. Mark Joris says the Black Mamba. The Black Mamba. Ali Haq. That's the full name of it. The Black Mamba Ali Haq. Or the Black Mamba Shalimar. She nimble. Like that. But on other issues, don't do it. You know, on other issues, she's like Robson. On other issues, the woman like Robson. Very pedestrian, kitty cutter. Kitty cutters. That's how she going. Kitty cutter. But on the partisan matter, oh, she nimble. She quick on her feet. And again, it's demonstrative. You protect your own. The government can do no wrong. Right? Woe unto them, Shalimar Ali Haq. Woe unto them that lead the little ones astray. Woe unto them. Woe unto them. You know, this was part of what the leader of the opposition covered in his press conference yesterday. And if it's only from an issues perspective, listen to the array of issues that grappling our country, that the leader of the opposition walks us through. Is one thing to the next. That's how we say it colloquially. Is the old house on the old house. You see, nothing being solved. And one of the issues, one of the reasons why Irfan is a micromanager. And we can circle to that because that's one of the things Starbuck News talks about today in its editorial. He is a micromanager. A jagabat, but a micromanager. A trench crapo, but he's a hybrid. He's a micromanager. A catfish, but hybrid. Versed in catfishism, but he's a hybrid. He's a micromanager as well. And we can talk about that because that is part of what Starbuck News talks about this morning. Who's sharing their life today? Who will smash the emoji button? Oh, is these jagabats you're frightened? These crosses? These trench couples, is them you're afraid of. So Mr. Norton, yesterday in his press conference, went over a range of issues, including the Patterson. The one with Patterson. How shall we man nimble on our feet? You see? On opposition issues. But very pedestrian. She's sauntering. Happy about the dictionary from Austin's. She's sauntering leisurely. He ain't got no post haste with how she's dealing with government issues. Right? She's taking her time and peeling her pine on government issues. And this is part of what leader of the opposition, Mr. Aubrey Norton, touched on yesterday, leader of the People's National Congress Reform, that great party. Take a look, folks. Please and thank you. Take a look, take a listen.
Opposition wishes to condemn the use of the Ghana police force to achieve political objectives, while at the same time ensuring the PPP senior officials who are accused of serious crimes are not investigated, or the police carries out the investigation in a way that allows for the PPP accused senior official to go free and not face the law. The political harassment of Member of Parliament, Mr. David Patterson, is one of the most recent manifestations of the PPP's harassment of the opposition. Mr. Patterson is being accused of violating the law. What is interesting is for this minor offense, he's placed on $200,000 station bail, which is clearly an act of political harassment. In the case of the allegations of bribery and corruption leveled against Barra Jagdeo in the Vice News report, the PPP instructed the police not to investigate. Mr. Jagdeo's alleged crime is far worse than the allegation leveled against Mr. Patterson. Yet the police are unable to investigate an alleged crime that has serious implications for the nation as a whole. In the case of the alleged rape and sodomizing of an indigenous child, the police was very complacent and clearly worked assiduously to ensure that Mr. Nigel Dharamlal did not face the full force of the law. For the opposition, this is not a closed case. It's a case of money and other forms of power being used to intimidate ordinary citizens and to allow the members of the PPP elite class in Guyana to violate the law and go unpunished. It must be stated here that rape has no statute bar, and therefore those who believe in justice will continue to pursue this case until there is justice. Madhya Dormitory fire. We will not relent in our call for an independent commission of inquiry. It is now 66 days since the tragic Madhya Dormitory fire that took the lives of 20 young Guyanese on the 21st of May, 1923. In that time, the government deployed several devious and heartless ploys to avoid taking full responsibility and to brush the matter under the carpet. Most recently, Guyanese across the social and political spectrum joined in condemning the insulting act by the government to offer the parents the stingy financial compensation and to coerce or intimidate them into signing documents absolving the government from any future potential claims for liability and injury. Guyanese must continue to reject these acts by the PPP. It should be noted that in the judicial system, Guyanese are awarded $20 million or more for libel and defamation. It is therefore ridiculous for the government to offer $5 million per person for the loss of life. Life cannot be that cheap in a country where the government squanders billions of taxpayers' money. To date, The government has failed to constitute the long-awaited Commission of Inquiry into the file. There can be no excuse for the delay. Several organizations, including the parliamentary opposition, have publicized detailed terms of reference. And there are several well-qualified and professional Guyanese and CARICOM nationals who can sit on such an independent commission. Guyanese must see the delay for what it is. It is an act by a government that is interested in its own political self-preservation at any cost, one that has no sense of morality, integrity, and duty but to itself. We will not relent until a commission of inquiry is established, until all those responsible in the PPP cabinet are held accountable, until all corrective measures are identified and implemented across the country for similar facilities, until justice for the dead Madja children and their parents is served. We owe it to the dead and to the wider society to hold the government accountable for what is clearly their incompetence and lack of care for our children. Government must announce salary increases and cost of living relief, for 2023. True to its anti-working class and anti-poor nature, the incompetent and corrupt PPP government has displayed its usual heartlessness in refusing to grant any salary and wage increases to teachers, the police, the Guyana Defense Force, and public servants. In addition, they have offered no cost of living relief to ordinary Guyanese in 2023. Last week in the National Assembly, Minister with responsibility for finance in the office of the President, Ashni Singh, when asked about the $5 billion voted in the 2023 national budget to help Guyanese survive the high cost of living, he gave an answer that may not have even convinced he himself. In a nutshell, he reported that none of the money has been spent, at least usefully. Likewise, we are not surprised by the government's bad faith in the ongoing salary negotiations with the GTU. We see no interest being shown by the government to activate the collective bargaining agreement with the public service unions. If last year's salary increases are any guide, then the government will likely impose an increase that is below the inflation rate and not retroactive. It will then continue on its merry way, doling out large contracts to its cronies for infrastructure projects. Clearly, the 2023 budget was not intended to help the poor. It is a mechanism to put wealth in the hands of the PPP elites, families, friends, and favorites, while allowing the people to punish. The government shows no care that midwives, nursing assistants, and nurses continue to leave the country for more respect and more pay in the UK and elsewhere. It is the people of Guyana who are harmed by the decline of our health services. It is the people of Guyana who are harmed by the decline in our health services. When teachers pack up and fly out, our schools and school children pay the price. When our qualified university graduates migrate in droves, the people pay the price. When the public service is no longer seen by young people as providing career opportunities and pathways to decent living standards, it is the country that suffers. The PPP does not get this and never will. The PPP must use oil resources to pay these critical sectors a livable income, as we have indicated we will do in government. On the question of wages and salaries, what do we in the coalition subscribe to as a party and government in waiting. As we have said before, our principles and commitments are as follows. One, there should be no working poor in Guyana. We now have the financial means to lift all Guyanese well over the poverty line. We recommit ourselves to the 1 million per household annually in a structured, open, transparent way and based on objective criteria. We will build a modern, motivated, and highly trained teaching and public service, as it is vital to the realization of our people-centered development strategy, which is based on our vision for Guyana. Such a public service is required to deliver top-quality health, education, and other services, to manage a comprehensive social protection system, to provide efficient services to the private sector, and to ensure that affairs of the people can be efficiently and effectively administered. 3, we will respect the public sector unions as the legitimate representatives of public servants. This is an error that must be rectified, and we are committed to doing so. Under a future coalition government.
That is Mr. Aubrey Norton, walking through a range of issues there, a range of issues that he tackled in yesterday's press conference. A range of issues. You see how many things we're dealing with on a daily basis? They're promising to raise the nurses and teachers' salary. Look how long adjustments they say come in. It's not just yet. We're still waiting and we're still hoping for the adjustment. But I want to tell you, the nature of the people is the nature of the beast that we got to deal with. There's the nature of the beast that we got to deal with, brothers and sisters. When the young boy ran out yesterday, I'm told. You know, they ain't shame. They ain't got no shame. Now, they're telling us that they're heading to Chinese landing to do an investigation, right, on some of the possible. They're not betting nothing, fighting to the end, true Jagabatical behavior, led by Papa Jagabat, true Jagabatical behavior, possible human rights breaches. Now, folks, this commission handed down this decision more than 2 years ago. Is now Jack said we got the time to go and see what's happening with our indigenous brothers and sisters. You see Jagabatical behavior. You see trench-capotical behavior. Huh? That is what it looked like. And then they want to come and say they care. Who they care for? What they care about? Huh? Those things remain a mystery. Those things remain a mystery. So in this headline we see in the morning papers, Kaicho News to be specific. Kaicho News to be specific. Here's what the headline reads. It says here, government to deploy team to probe environmental human rights abuses at Chinese landing. At Chinese landing. Now, folks, there's a gamut of issues, right? Myriad issues. We've been chronicling right here on the treatment of our indigenous brothers and sisters, or Amerindian brothers and sisters, a whole host of infractions. I'm telling you guys, it's more than 2 years now since this decision was handed down by this body. But Jack, this is now we going to probe. He needs a good probing. And he might like it. He needs a good probing. It's now they're going to probe the allegations of environmental and human rights abusive at Chinese landing. And of course, this was a decision handed down by the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. saying that our indigenous brothers and sisters, their rights are being trampled on. You see, being trampled on at places like Chinese landing. Who can share the life for us? These are issues we've been chronicling. Y'all remember this? Huh? Y'all remember this? Where we've told you how the indigenous communities, their concerns are being ignored. Region 1 at Little Kanubali in Morocco. The people said, Sukai not listening to them. They're chronicling corruption, nepotism, jagobatism, trench crapoism, all of that being chronicled at Little Kanubali, Mark Ferreira. Webney Doris, Caleb, Kashan, and again at Region 1, the UN Committee, sorry, I mixed up my agencies, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, spoke about what is happening there, the infractions. Could you imagine our indigenous brothers and sisters cannot get redress in the local courts? They had to go internationally, and that is how they ended up at the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, which handed down this decision, telling the government, PVP government, you're going to protect these people. Why only now, 2 years later, they're now going on a fact-finding mission. And they want to persuade you and I how much they care. So you got Little Kanubali, got issues. Chinese landing, the Carib community there. Know how this regime don't care. Similar to what's happening at Chinese landing in Region 1. It's happening at Eseneru, in the Akawayo community there. This is Region 7 now. Similar is happening there, where mining is concerned. Infractions on indigenous mining lands there. Similar is happening at Murudi. In Region 9 now, this is Deep South. Similar is happening there. Who's sharing the life for us today, man? We're talking about valid, credible information. To similar infractions in our indigenous communities, it's happening at Marudi Mountain, Deep South. And then you got Wiki Kalkuni in Region 10. The indigenous community raised concerns there against this regime. And then you got also Hururu in Region 10. The indigenous community there. And elsewhere, this is just a snapshot we're showing you. This is just broad strokes we're showing you. So you see, we come with facts. It's not rhetoric. It's not propaganda. We come with facts. We come with facts. So don't come wrong with funny. And them boys say they care. Because now they're going to see what's happening at Chinese landing. They're going to say, on a fact-finding mission. Well, former head of the National Truth Council, Nicholas Fredericks, he done find the facts. He ain't going on a fact-finding mission. 2 years later, now the government going and they're going to say, we care. 2 years later. But they're looking out for the indigenous people, our brothers and sisters, their interests. They're looking out for their own interests. It's your own interests they're looking out for. And so former head of the National Truth Council, you know, it's heavily politicized now. Heavily politicized. He said how PPP undermined his council, undermined it. And they can go to indigenous brothers and sisters, the communities in which they inhabit, and they can say, they care. Let me run through briefly what Tushau Frederick said. He asked the question, when will our outstanding land claims be resolved? Last year, he asked this question, almost to the day, July 12th, 2022. When will our outstanding land claims be resolved and all our traditional lands finally be legally recognized? That just say we now going. We now going. When will the government respect the rights to first, prior and informed consent? When will he respect that? And give us the time and space to properly consider the draft LCDS and proposals in it, such as the carbon markets one, and to submit our own proposals and inputs to it. If you care, how will the government implement the recommendations of the international human rights treaty bodies? This is a year ago. Tushar Fredericks asked this question. Jack just said, we care, but we now going. We're going to implement the recommendations of the Government Commission, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. No, we're going to implement it. We're going to fact find it to see if what it says is true. Then we can prepare our own report. That's another 6 years or 10 years. Tushar Fredericks was asking the question, how will the government implement the recommendations of the International Human Rights Treaty bodies, especially when it refuses to meet with affected villages to discuss the matter? He goes on to say, myself and my fellow outgoing executives of the National Two Shows Council, fellow executive members, have worked hard to ensure our independence as a body. Listen now. However, this independence is undermined by the failure of the government to ensure that the NTC, the National Two Shows Council, has the funds to allow us to coordinate and organize. This is the last National Two Shows Council conference itself. But they can come to you in your village and in your hamlet, and they can see how they care. But when they have an opportunity to really show how they care, they're always found wanting. Always found wanting. Sabbath News editorial this morning, the header jumps out of us, jumps out at us. Politics and the GTU. Earphone is a micromanager. Earphone is a micromanager. We're all shocked as a nation. Priya Manik-Chan, this hypocrite, in her own words, folks, if you're new to our broadcast, our Minister of Education, Priya Manik-Chan, tried to spell the word hypocrite on social media. The Minister of Education spelled this as hypocrite. She was describing herself and cabinet members and government. Hypocrites! Hear what Sabbath News said in his editorial this morning. However well-meaning President Irfan Ali might be, a grasp of the principles of administration does not appear to be included in his management arsenal. Oh God. There's a slap to chest. At least that's a drop kick. However well-meaning President Irfan Ali might be, a grasp of the principles of administration does not appear to be included in his management arsenal. He is, in other words, something of a micromanager. He is, in other words, something of a micromanager. Who can smash the emoji buttons for us? I don't know if you are in the public sector. TV and listen, you ain't gonna smash it. Definitely you ain't gonna share. He's something of a micromanager. He moves around the country from region to region, listening to people's problems and solving them immediately where he can, and arranging to solve them When he can't, you can't run a country like this. Systems cannot work. Because instead of helping, he ends up being a cog in the wheel. Right? So here he is saying how he don't need the GTU. He's going to talk to teachers himself. And in another editorial, Starbuck News points out he got to go to about 1,000 institutions if he's talking to teachers across the country. But he's something of a micromanager. He's not what this country needs. But Jack News already said, Irfan is a choice. Frank Anthony, politics aside, is a pretty bright fella. Frank Anthony I think Frank got the highest in the last internal elections about 10 years ago in the party. When last they had internal elections. So the people who espouse a love for democracy and rule of law and transparency and accountability, in their last internal party election about 10 years ago, Frank Anthony got the highest vote. Hooray, fun. Who didn't even make the vote count? He ended up as president and presidential candidate. How? In a democratic society, how? How? Say what you want about Anil. You will label your claims of win and seeds and all kinds of things. Say what you want of him. Anil won a couple of cases. I think that's the win we're talking about. He's been very fertile in that regard. He won a couple of cases. Say what you want of him. Naomi. Say what you want of him. He won a couple of cases. How will Irfan end up as president? Sabbath News says today, for those of you who don't know, Sabbath News is middle of the road. Sabbath News is opposition paper. Right? Sabbath News is not opposition paper. Pretty decent journalism comes out of Sabbath News. He's sort of a micromanager. He was at Tushen, or was it at Alfred University a couple of days ago? And they were very happy to say, oh, the president solved 1,700 problems on the spot. They don't understand. They aren't improving the systems. You see, they're circumventing them. They're not trying to make the system more effective. They're trying to put him out there as a god. It's only he can solve your problems. So as soon as the drain's blocked, Irfan, you better come and see this. Little stand in your village on the road. Drivers block the road. The president have to come. Because they are not allowing systems to work. They're not allowing systems to work. They aren't. Which brings us to some talk of labor shortages. They seem very happy to announce, oh, we don't have enough drivers locally for the construction industry. So we're going to import labor, but they don't tell us how they're doing this. They don't tell us what is the data, what is the science. What are they using to inform their policy making? Every time you run into somebody, people looking for work. You got anything for me? People looking for work, but they say we don't have drivers. We don't have drivers. So we got to import. Where are they importing them from? They got a driver shop somewhere. He's going to pick them up. We're not informed about that. Same when I said there's a chicken shortage. But the farmers reach out to us and says, not so. If some friend, family, and favorite want to make a quick dollar. So you create a problem. Only to say, Well, I get the answer. Let me import chicken. Who got interest in some of these import companies? I'd love to see that. In the interest of transparency, accountability, and good governance, you'd be shocked if you see who has interest in some of these companies. You will be shocked. And so, folks, we're going to be joined by Tabitha Sarabo Haley, who understands these issues. And she's going to walk us through this whole thing about labor shortage. And again, the micromanager touchdown, he got the answer. The micromanager, he can say he got the answer. I'm happy to have Tabitha as part of our program this morning. Privileged to have with us MP Tabitha Sarabo Haley. And Tabitha, very good morning. Welcome. How are you doing?
Good morning to you, Sherrod. Good morning to your viewers. I am doing okay. I'm doing all right. I'm hoping that everyone is doing okay on this morning, and best wishes to a good day.
Excellent, excellent. Let's start our discussion with this recent letter by Elder Hamilton Green. You know, Hamilton Green was our prime minister at one time. For a very long time, he was our mayor of the national capital city of Georgetown for a long time as well. And I love the fact that no matter how young he gets, you know, he's always involved, always raising his voice on issues, foreign and domestic. And in this case, these drivers, you know, it was recently announced that we needed some more drivers for a particular contract, for a particular contractor, because we had none in Guyana. And so these drivers are going to be sourced and have been sourced for all intents and purposes from overseas. Well, Hamilton Green, former Prime Minister, as I said, was livid on this matter. Not the fact that we have to take them from overseas, but the fact that we don't seem to have too much national planning happening where these issues are concerned. Tabitha, what are your thoughts?
I read the letter and I was saying to myself that he was speaking into my notes, because I have been doing some research on this particular issue. Not necessarily to the truck drivers, but to the whole idea of labor force and how it is that we ensure that we get the best out of what is happening for our citizens in this particular economy. And I feel as though there's not a lot of work being done to ensure that those persons who are of age to work in the labor force have the necessary skills, necessary access, necessary opportunities to be able to first get those jobs before it goes overseas or goes to persons overseas who have to now come in the country and get work permits to work here. And so it has been something that has been bothering me for a while. So I did some amount of research on it. And so what I also did was send some questions to the Minister of Labor. So I'm waiting for that to come on the parliamentary order paper for him to respond to a lot of the questions I have surrounding labor and how it is that it's being treated. And if it's being treated in an urgent matter, urgent manner, I'm sorry, and whether or not they have the data to help them to make decisions as to what we're doing with our labor force.
Excellent. You know, in one part of this letter from former Prime Minister Hamilton Green, he says that over a year ago, the head of state announced that they had run short of certain skills: artisans, tradesmen, craftsmen, mechanics, machine operators, etc. Immediately, Hamilton Green says, we should have introduced a modified national service, and which would have served two purposes: to bring together our young people in every region of the country to mix, mingle, and to learn our history, allowing them to dispel prejudices that exist, and also to make the concept that we are one people, one nation, one destiny a reality, while skills training as well. That doesn't sound too bad to me.
It doesn't sound bad to me either, Sharon, but I know there will always be an issue about whether or not this one Guyana thing is actually working the way at least the president suggests it should work. All right, but that is, I want to set that part aside. I'll come back to that just now. But the part that where Hamilton Green spoke about the skill set of the individuals. My first question would be whether or not, when the president made that statement, whether he has data to back up that statement, or what was he just saying that because persons were finding it difficult to source persons. So there are two things: whether or not it's actually a data-driven statement, or whether he's just saying that because somebody complained to him that they can't find persons to work in that particular sector.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then if there is no data-driven, if the statement wasn't data-driven, then why it is that we are working on creating policies and making decisions without the requisite data to tell us where we stand with our local labor force, what is our current labor force participation rate, and what it is that is required to ensure that we up that, because as far as I'm aware, we have the lowest labor force participation rate in the region, and this is for the Caribbean region. And so to say that we don't have the labor necessary for the different sectors, and without doing the data to see where exactly we're at, what is required to get us up to par before it is that we go to seeking overseas labor, I think it's very important for us to ask ourselves these questions. And so the reality in Guyana right now is that you would hear a response from the government that they're doing GOAL and they have GROW and all of these 20,000 scholarships and that they're doing. But if you remember, Sherrod, when the first budget debate, I asked the Minister of Public Service whether or not they did any data analysis to determine what areas they would give scholarships in. And her response to me was basically that they were going around the country during the elections period and they were hearing from people what areas they wanted to focus on, what areas they wanted to be trained in. And that is not how a government should work. And that should not be the basis on which you do, especially when it comes to the oil and gas sector, which is a new sector on board, and the fact that you need to understand the skills that would be required, and then let the population know these are the short-term, medium-term, and long-term skills that will be required. And so this is what we're focusing on. And so people should be trained in these particular areas to ensure that there's no gap between the skills people are being trained in and the skills that are required in the labor market. And I think that is a gap that is there and is going to continue to grow because we have no data that is guiding the decisions that we're making.
Excellent. So the larger point I hear you making is that this should be data-driven at every stage. And I think what you're saying bears fruit because we don't know what is driving this, if it is an artificial shortage. You know, they've announced recently there's a chicken shortage, and so they're importing chicken. You know, I mean, this might say that this giant black chicken project that they took on to help to rear and care and all of that to bring down the food import bill of CARICOM, you know, it might not be working. They pour millions into that, but a lot of farmers are telling us that some of this is not so. I mean, this is not so plain and simple. This is friends, another case of friends, family, and favorites, and you know, a contractor or business people in general. You know, they create businesses to make a profit. This is not an NGO they're running. So if they can get cheaper labor from elsewhere, they're going to go in that direction to drive up their profits. So it might not be that we don't have the labor, we don't have the skill set, but a clear case of people just trying to earn as much profits as possible because we interact, we talk, you know, we live and breathe Guyana every day, and people are out to work. You might not have everybody who is trained as a driver, but clearly we could start training and retraining, retooling some people for this kind of skill set. Hamilton Green in this letter says, this thing is not rocket science. I want to quote another part of his letter and gauge your reaction. He says that training in these skills is not rocket science and should be a national policy supported by the government, opposition, and patriots all. He says that to have a caveat, when the announcement was made, contractors are importing skill, it should have been comforting that if at the same time a statement was made that the government and the contractors had explored recruitment of CARICOM countries, including Haiti and Guyanese in the diaspora. But the whole thing is so vague and so nebulous, you don't know what is really and truly happening. Tabitha.
Yes, and that is so accurate on so many different levels. It is obvious to me that because there is no one, there's no data, and you have to question why it is there seems to be some hesitancy when it comes to data-driven decisions. Is it because once the data is there, then you can't hide and run from it, and so you have to respond to the data that is there? And so it is better not to have any data, and so you just make decisions based on what you think is best for you and the few that are around you. And so that is a question that has to be asked. And you see, the reality is that unless we know what really is happening on the ground, and I'm not going to say that we won't need to import labor at any point, because the amount of labor that is required, given not only the oil and gas sector, but even the other sectors that we are trying to grow, it would require more labor than we have in Guyana. But we need to first start to ensure that we, as Guyanese, as citizens of Guyana, get the first set of jobs here. And then once we have reached our capacity, then you go to import in particular areas. And the importation should be in areas that, at least for the short term, you cannot find Guyanese that can have that have those particular skill set. But at the same time, once you recognize that a particular skill is being imported, you look to see whether, one, they have persons first in the Guyanese diaspora that can come back and do those jobs. And so if it is that you're dealing with nation and nationalism and patriotism and looking after your citizens, then that has to be your first go-to when it is that you're looking for labor outside of the shores. It has to be to the diaspora first. First, the Guyanese diaspora. We have more people outside and inside the country with a range of skills that can be utilized in Guyana. And are we looking at that first? Have we done that? Have we then gone to the CARICOM? Because the president and other ministers love to talk about the fact that once Guyana grows, the entire region, the Caribbean region, must grow with Guyana. Have they gone to other CARICOM countries to see whether or not those skill sets is in CARICOM and ensure those persons get a bite before we go further afield? And so Mr. Hamilton Green is quite accurate. But it's a case, I believe, that one, there's a hesitancy to deal with data. And as you said rightfully, it's about ensuring that the business people get the cheapest of labor and not have to deal with the laws, which is another thing that we can come to, that surrounds labor in Guyana. And so for them, the best bet is to source labor from further afield, which doesn't help in growing our economy and growing and reducing unemployment in Guyana.
Excellent. Tabitha, you did preface your initial comments to say that you've been doing research in this area. I mean, I don't want to ask you too much about it yet, because we know how researchers can be. But if you can give us some broad themes that you might be exploring in terms of the local labor market, and what some of your findings are as we're talking about data and the direction and we should be heading in, and what should impact on policy and all of that.
What I was looking at is recognizing that the government hasn't done much to look at the data and what is driving the issues as relates to our labor force. I actually got onto what the IOM, the research the IOM has done on that particular issue. And they were basically saying that what Guyana needs right now, it's a labor market information system. And that particular system would handle a lot of things that we were talking about today. It would handle research, it would handle analysis, it would handle the forecast, and ensure that we are looking at the trends in the labor market, understanding the labor market gaps, and basically collaborating with agencies such as the Bureau of Statistics, such as the Central Recruitment and Manpower Agency, to advise government policy on how it is they should treat labor issues. It also spoke about the fact that because we have so many Guyanese that live overseas, that should be our first stop in looking for labor. And then once you would have maxed out the diaspora, then you go to CARICOM, and then you go further afield once you can't find it there. But outside of that too, Sharon, I think it is important to recognize that when we're dealing with these particular matters of labor, what you would find is that over time, you have to ensure that the young people that are coming up understand the labor market that they're coming into, and understand how to target their studies, how to target what it is that they want to do in the future based on what is happening in the labor market. And if we don't have the data to help them, then they will go back to the regular doctor, lawyer, nurse. Not that there's anything wrong with those particular skills, but they have, that they're more in today. We know that there's so much more jobs, so many more jobs that are available outside of just those jobs that we know growing up. And so we need to ensure that the labor market information system is alive and well and working to help the entire society understand where the labor market is going, understand the needs of the labor market, and so that everybody would know what skill set that they need to ensure that they are viable in this growing economy in Guyana.
Tabby, I want to thank you so much. MP, Member of Parliament, Tabitha Sarabo, highly I want to thank you so much for spending this time with us today
Thank you
on
for
these
having me,
issues.
Sharon.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. That was our discussion there with the Member of Parliament, Tabitha Sarabo. And I want to say again, thank you so much, Tabby, for coming by on such short notice and bringing us up to speed with all that's happening on that front. Folks, on the front where we are here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, our trip here is winding down, and this is the end of our broadcast. That's all we have for you today, folks. Until our next broadcast, thanks for joining us from the many places you're joining us from. I see there's another show happening in the comment section. Been following there. So True Hector, we see you there, and Victoria Singh and Billy Ramasar. Billy, good to see you. June Cameron, Yvette, Kyle, Latoya, Siobhan, Mark, and all the other folks. Good to see you, folks. Have joined us this morning. We're privileged, folks. We're humble. Share the live before you go. Smash that emoji button for us, folks. Do that for us. Partner with us as well. That keeps us going show after show, day after day, week after week, month after month. November coming. November is 3 years since we out here, folks. Valid, credible information. We're happy that you guys have joined us from the various places. Thanks, Tabby, again for coming by. That's going to do it for us at this end, folks. Signing out from the Turks and Caicos Islands. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, folks. Candy, we see you there. Candy, Selwyn, Benjamin, we see you as well. Yvonne McPherson, good to see you as well. As Latoya Spencer says, happy Friday to all. Good to have you, Latoya. Direct One, good to see you too. Lettel Pratt, good to have you here. And all the other folks. Iron, that's the name. That's the handle on YouTube. Iron, that's the person's name. That's the person's name. Thanks for joining us, folks. That's going to do it for us. And they said until our next podcast.